And we be taking care of business every day, taking care of business every way. We be taking care of business. It's all mine, taking care of business and working overtime. Woo! Amen. Welcome to the Pack Fantasy Football League, episode 5. Yes, it is 5. I know last week I said 4, but I said 5 last week, but that was 4. It is episode 5, and we are 1 week away from the playoffs. And man, it feels good to take care of business and get that much closer to the playoffs. I always say that as long as you make the playoffs, you have a chance. It doesn't matter if you limp into the playoffs or you squeak into the playoffs. If you make it, you have a chance at winning it all. And that's exciting for all the people that are going to be in the playoffs. 4 teams so far have clinched their spot. And I know last week's video, I hyped it up. I said, hey, this upset, or if this team beats this team, or if this team wins out and this team loses out, and sneaking into the playoffs. Mostly everything was chalk, with the teams in the playoffs beating the teams not in the playoffs. And 3 teams got eliminated. A big better luck next year to Daniel, Ricky, and Gerald. This is big. Daniel has yet to make the playoffs as a member of the Pack Fantasy Football League. And I know he's going to get there. Ricky joined late on and really shouldn't have even been in the conversation of making the playoffs. Because his team was in the dumps when he inherited it, and he got close. He definitely got close. He put him in a good position, and just couldn't get it done. And then Gerald, this is his first time missing the playoffs ever in our fantasy football league. So I know that stings, but he'll be back. He'll be back for sure. In terms of the playoffs, Craig won. He clinched the number 1 seed in the playoffs. And he's 12-1, man. I just thought about that this week. Like, man, 12-1. That no team has ever won 12 games in the regular season in our fantasy league history. People have won 11, people have won 10, but no one's ever won 12, and he has a chance of getting to 13. And I'm like, man, what even makes his team good? But he's got some solid running backs, some okay receivers, and he's got Patrick Mahomes, man. I hate to say it. I don't like picking quarterback early, but it's been working out when it's Patrick Mahomes. The number 2 seed, because I beat Joe, that opens up the door for RJ. If RJ wins and Joe loses, then RJ gets the East Division title, the number 2 seed, and the bye week. But Joe just needs to win. Joe, you just need to beat Victor. You control your own destiny to get the bye week here. Jameson and Thomas's matchup, I was hyping it up last week as some big deal. Both of them clinched the playoffs with their victories last week. So this matchup really is just a matter of figuring out where people are seated, who's going to be seated higher. And they may even play each other again in the first round of the playoffs. So we could see 2 Jameson and Thomas matchups in back-to-back weeks. The last spots are between myself, RJ, and Jake, with Jake and RJ playing each other. And honestly, I don't really know how the points are going to match up. The head-to-head, it's hard to say because people got different head-to-head matchups. It's kind of like a triangle a little bit. So if Jake ended up beating RJ, I don't know if that bumps out me or if that bumps out RJ. I have no clue. I really don't know. But that's that. The wild stat of the week is Jameson making the playoffs. He has now the 3rd person to finish last place and then make the playoffs the very next year. In fact, that has happened every single year in our fantasy football league. The guy that finished last made the playoffs the next year. It happened with Joe Mike from 2019, making the playoffs in 2020 with the #1 seed, by the way, although he lost in the semifinals. And then Thomas in 2020 being last place, and then 2021 making the playoffs as the 3 seed and going one step further than Joe and making the finals, although he lost. Now here comes Jameson, 2021 last place, now in the playoffs. Can he get further than Thomas by winning it all? We will see. We will see. The game of the week is Jake versus RJ. Jake has just started managing this team over the last 2 to 3 weeks. So they've never faced off against each other. But RJ was one of those guys as part of the reason why Jake is even here as they met in Miami. So that's really cool to see them now facing off in fantasy football for the right to make the playoffs. So that is this week's episode. I'm looking forward to next week as we can dive deeper into the actual playoff matchups. And I'll see you guys in our next episode. Keep grinding, keep competing, and hope life is going better than your fantasy team.